Injectable weight loss medications like Ozempic and other GLP-1 medications have blown up over the last year. But viewing this type of medication as competition for your nutrition coaching services, that is a mistake. Which is why today I'm sharing 3 tips to work with nutrition clients that are taking GLP-1 medication. Starting with number 1, preventing muscle loss. Anyone taking this type of medication needs to be concerned with maintaining the muscle that they already have. Here's the deal. When someone loses weight, they want to lose fat, but they don't want to become a smaller version of themselves. This isn't helpful for health or aesthetic reasons, which can be problematic for weight loss because when you're losing weight, you're always losing some combination of fat mass and lean body mass. This happens regardless if someone's taking obesity medication or not. And it could be even worse if the person loses weight too fast. They end up losing more muscle than they need to, which can be common with a weight loss aid like GLP-1 medication. So how do we curb this? It comes in 2 parts. Now, eating enough protein over the course of the day, eating enough total protein, that is going to trump the source of the protein as well as how often you're eating protein. Many clients, especially those taking these medications, are going to need to eat between 1.2 to 2.0 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. And eating enough protein is going to spare the protein you already have in your muscles and should slow down some of that unwanted muscle mass loss. Without this, your nutrition clients could be losing 1 kilogram of lean body mass for every 1 kilogram of fat mass, so a 1-to-1 ratio. With eating more protein, this ratio is gonna shift closer to 1 kilogram of lean body mass for every 2 or even 3 kilos of fat mass. Now, just because the daily target for the total amount of protein someone needs to consume to spare muscle mass loss is the most important thing, it doesn't mean that meal timing or protein timing is thrown completely out the window. It's also helpful to distribute this total amount of protein evenly across meals. It might not be for scientific reasons, but it definitely makes it easier to hit. So encourage your clients to aim for 20 to 40 grams of protein each and every time they eat. This will maximize muscle protein synthesis as well as keep them feeling full throughout the day. And they're going to eat enough protein by leveraging high quality protein sources. So recommend lean, minimally processed protein sources like meat, especially leaner cuts of beef, boneless, skinless chicken breast, pork loin, plant-based options like lentils, tofu, quinoa, chickpeas, and black beans, dairy sources like cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, filtered milk, eggs, and egg whites. Now, these protein sources can be included as the main source of protein in meals, but they can also be incorporated as high protein snacks like hard-boiled eggs, Greek yogurt cups, and even edamame to prevent hunger between meals and stabilize blood sugar levels. Now, before we move on to the second part of this muscle loss puzzle, I completely understand why people are worried about muscle mass loss while on these drugs. And this fear is coming from not only clients, but also coaches and researchers and doctors. I've had colleagues reach out to me when I've spoken out about these drugs, saying things like they know people taking them, and given their professional interests, they're worried about them. They see serious muscle loss happening. And it's not just trainers. There's been big name experts like Dr. Peter Attia speaking out about this stuff.
I'm sure you're very familiar with the latest craze with semaglutide, which is an injectable drug that has...
Ozempic.
Yeah, Ozempic being the diabetes version of that, Wegovy being the pure weight loss version. It's the same drug, just a different name. What I see behind the scenes of what it's doing to people, and I'm sure other doctors can tell you similar stories. Ideal weight loss would be if you lose 20, 15 of it should be fat, 5 of it should be lean mass. So you can't just lose fat mass, but 3/4 of your weight loss should be fat mass. When we're putting patients on these drugs, we're doing DEXA scans before and after. This is something the FDA did not require the company to do when they sought approval. We're seeing 2/3 of the weight loss is lean mass. Only 1/3 is fat mass. So they're getting lighter, Megan, but they're getting fatter.
And it's these type of sensationalist headlines that really scare people off. But here's what you need to know. These rates of muscle loss would be normal in people losing weight, especially if they're not eating enough protein, they're losing weight too fast, and they're not doing the last part, which is part number 2, starting or continuing on strength training. Exercise is great for your overall health, and when possible, some of that time exercising should be spent directed towards lifting weights and doing resistance training, especially if they're taking obesity medication. It's part of the prescription, and lifting weights should bring down those rates of muscle loss back down to normal levels. What you need to know is, as of right now, there's no proposed mechanism or something happening behind the scenes that is making these people taking GLP-1 medications to lose muscle mass any faster or outside what is normally seen in most normal weight loss situations. Which brings me to my next point you need to address. Point number 2, eating enough food. Now here's what's interesting, and this may sound crazy, especially for someone that wants to lose weight, because in most cases, they need to manage the total amount of food that they're eating. But in some cases, especially clients taking these medications, you're gonna need to make sure that they're eating enough. You see, many clients taking a GLP-1 agonist are gonna see great results because it reduces appetite, slow the emptying of the stomach, increase the feeling of fullness, secrete insulin, which helps to regulate blood sugar, and inhibit glucagon, which is gonna have the opposite effect on blood sugar. And ultimately what this does is increases the feeling of fullness on smaller amounts of food and may reduce cravings, which it makes it easier to manage a total amount of calories and lose weight because you're not as hungry. But in some cases, you're gonna have to make sure that your nutrition clients eat enough. In many cases, losing weight is a valid health pursuit. But if your clients have no appetite and don't prioritize eating enough food or changing their food habits at all, they're of course going to lose weight, but they're also more likely to be low energy, which is gonna make it hard to thrive and live an enjoyable life, as well as hard to get into the gym and do everything you need to do to have a successful weight loss transformation. So when you follow the conventional weight loss advice, when possible, choose whole food choices, prioritize less processed foods like lean meats, dairy, fruits and vegetables, olive oil, and these foods can also include rotisserie chicken and bagged salads, which I'll touch on in a second, while also avoiding sugary snacks, processed cereals, and anything overly packaged or processed. This is what will help most people looking to lose weight to manage their calories. But here's the flip side. Choosing these food choices most of the time, added to low appetite, might drive the total amount of calories someone's consuming so low that they're lethargic and they have no energy, making quality of life lower, as well as losing more lean body mass instead of fat mass. So here's what I would suggest instead. Part 1, get your clients to track their food intake. Tracking your calorie and macronutrient intake gives you a baseline for what you need to do to lose weight. But it'll also give your clients a benchmark to know when they're eating enough. And since you can't manage what you don't measure, tracking your food intake gives you an opportunity to do so. And then once you have a calorie or macro target, you can also do part 2, which is work in more calorie dense foods when needed. Generally, people that are looking to lose weight that are more calorie conscious, they're gonna avoid things like nuts and seeds, fruit juices, fattier cuts of meats, and some noodles, because these are the foods that are gonna supply a lot of calories for not a lot of volume. But if you're struggling to eat enough, these might be the exact types of foods to work in so that you drive your calories up to an acceptable level. And if you're on these types of medications and struggling with side effects like nausea, it might be these type of foods that you need to eat because they're easier to tolerate. So non-diet foods may be the answer here. Along with part 3, which is not something I advise to everyone losing weight, and that is to eat more frequently. Generally, more frequent meals or snacking can be a disaster for those trying to lose weight. You just end up eating more. But since GLP-1 medications reduce appetite, many of these clients that are struggling to eat enough because they just don't feel like it would benefit from eating more frequently, working in more high protein, nutrient dense meals every 2 to 3 hours, getting in enough smaller portions so that they eat enough total amount of food. At the end of the day, this is gonna come down to individual preference within the principles we know for healthy weight loss. Which leads me to my last strategy here. Number 3, build healthy long-term habits. For a lot of weight loss clients, GLP-1 medications are gonna be the difference maker in their weight loss journey. But that's not the only thing that matters. They still need to focus on what they eat and how they eat. And the general consensus here is that many of these clients taking these medications, they're gonna need to be on them long term, which means they'll need to be using strategies and building habits now to lose weight, but to also keep it off down the road. And this is gonna be regardless if they're still taking the medication, completely off the medication, or taking it in smaller doses. So what this means is creating a lifestyle around choosing food that provides enough protein and nutrients to keep them full, learning to shop and prepare these foods consistently each and every week, and doing some strength training and taking more steps. This is why the role of the nutrition coach in this situation is so important. These are the strategies and the habits you're gonna help your clients build. And they need this just as much as they need the medication. So start to see GLP-1 medication as a tool and another thing that they can do to help with this process and not a replacement for good quality nutrition coaching. Think of it as collaborative and not competition. If anything, we're gonna start to see some niche nutrition coaches that are getting specific around this medication to do very well. And that's it, folks. If you're working with nutrition clients that are taking GLP-1 medication, you wanna do some things to curb muscle loss, eat enough food, and also build some long-term habits. And these drugs are here to stay. So if you're truly in the business of helping people, you're gonna learn to work alongside them. And if the use of these drugs make you uncomfortable, I'd really encourage you to check in with how you feel about working with obese clients in general. This isn't an easy way out, and framing it that way isn't gonna help the people you're looking to serve. It may actually just be another sign of the stigma for those who struggle with their body weight. Now, as great as all those tips are, if you're really serious about starting nutrition coaching, the next thing I'm gonna have you do is check out this video I've linked up right here. Let me break down the science of these weight loss drugs so you feel confident going into these coaching situations. You're gonna learn all about that in the video right here, so check it out now, and I'll see you in the next video.